Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's review of Samurai Jack from Weird Future. I'm your host, The Cube, and today I have Chris and Chais with me.
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
So, I'm going to do a quick summary of the episode, but before I do, I just want to remind everyone that this was originally made by the artist and director Gendy Tartakovsky. Yet again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but that's the way it's read, so that's the way I'm going to do it. So this episode, for those of you guys who don't know, basically follows Jack from the last one where he was attacked by the Daughters of Aku. And for those of you who don't know who they are, they're basically a cult who raised 7 girls that were sent to kill Samurai Jack. From birth to the age, they seem to be adults now. Let's assume 20, 21, whatever. So they, in the most recent episode, Jack kills one, which kind of goes against his moral code because he's never had to kill another human being before. And then she wounds him before dying, and he falls into a river. And this episode starts there, as he's drifting down the river, still dealing with mental instability because he sees frogs jump on logs and talk to him. He sees the Odin monster ancestor Jack copy horseman figure again, and he sees himself again in these caves where he takes refuge after he gets out of the river. So he's still dealing with that kind of mental instability, that mental insanity that he can't get past for being in the future for so long. And the Daughters of Aku, while chasing him, basically are dealing with the outside world on their own because they've been trained their whole lives in this cave. So now they're experiencing things outside the cave. They see a doe and a buck. They see a lot of they just deal with natural elements that is not a part of their daily routine. So as the episode kind of continues, we see Jack hide out in this cave. He meets a wolf who is also kind of a lone wolf, literally, and they become kind of kindred spirits because they've both been wounded in battle, so together they kind of recuperate. And after that, Jack decides that after some soul searching and looking back on himself and remembering a memory of his father kicking some serious ass, he basically decides that he's already killed one, he can't stop now, it's already kind of too late, he's already taken that step. So now he's going to fight all the other Daughters of Aku, and that's where the episode kind of wraps up as he's finishing them or fighting them off. So I'm going to hand it off to Chris now so he can share his ideas.
To start off the episode, we see Jack floating down the river. He happens upon a log, which he uses a flotation device. And he sees a frog on the log after a while. And he looks at the frog, and the frog starts speaking to him, saying, "They're coming." And Jack starts going into a state of panic and starts paddling until he can't paddle anymore. And he floats on down to the river. And I thought for that particular section where he starts panicking, it's just he's starting to imagine things, and he's in a state of panic, and he's afraid that the Daughters of Aku are still right behind him and gonna kill him while he's weak and wounded. So he's trying to get away with a sense of urgency. He's trying to get away from. And going on, he progresses to go into the cave. And in that section, you see where he's talking to Jack how he imagines he would look if he had aged. In that persona where you see that persona of Jack, pretty much sharp teeth, and I feel like with that sharp teeth, it's like he's more of an aggressive person. That's more like of Jack's primal instinctive side of him, that wants to say, you should kill them, or did you want them to kill you? And that's where you see Jack in the cave, just somewhat thinking of what's going on right now, and he happens upon to have some flashbacks in the cave. All in the meanwhile, you see the wolf come in during his state of rest, and with that, you see Jack's face with the blood, and you see the zigzags of blood going down his face or that are forming, as well as for the wolf, you see the same exact thing happen, where you see red streaks upon a black wolf, the shadow of a black wolf, and you see the red streaks going across the shadow of Jack's face and his body. And I feel like that would go to show that these two beings are running in parallel with each other. They're both on their own, and they're both trying to make it by themselves, and hopefully they're able to recover from their wounds. And progressing on, we do see that they are literally licking each other's wounds, trying to help each other become better. The wolf goes out and hunts and brings back some food, and then Jack cooks the food and shares with the wolf. And they start tending to each other, more so the wolf than tending to Jack than the Jack tending to the wolf. And that was a pretty good choice that the animators decided to throw in there.
I like to think when I see the wolf, it's kind of like, it's not an exact reference to Berserk. For those of you who know what that comic is, it's basically, well, it's not even the same thing, but it has a main character that it runs parallels with Samurai Jack, who's been through a lot of trauma, who's had to deal with a lot, and now he's a lone swordsman out on his own. And they use the analogy in that comic of a wolf to tend to his madness. Basically, the bigger the wolf gets and the stronger the wolf gets, the crazier that character gets. But here in Samurai Jack, we see that Jack is akin to the wolf because the wolf only has one objective, and that's to survive. And that's kind of what Jack's objective has been. Besides trying to get Aku, it's just been nothing but to survive. So they become kindred spirits in that way, and I think Chris explained that pretty well, how they tend to one another, and how even though the wolf has nothing in common with Jack besides that, they help each other. So let's turn it over to Chives. Chives, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I mean, the wolf scene was, it was what we all been waiting for, all this time we've been asking questions. Oh, is this a representation of Jack? What does the wolf mean? We finally got an answer. Them face to face. Like you said, they're kindred spirits. But continue this conversation. We have the part where the wolf finally finishes healing. Jack is about to, finish healing. And the wolf, leaves. He goes in his own path and leaves Jack to his own to face the daughters. Before the daughters even reach Jack, we have those flashbacks of Jack's childhood. And I think these are very important scenes that we have to focus on, because this is what created Jack. This is how he came to be. And the scene that sticks to me the most is the two scenes where Jack sees his father kill and, defend him and his mother. And then the next scene where Jack's dad sits down with him and tells him, quote unquote, the decisions you make and the actions that follow are a reflection of who you are. I think this is a very powerful quote, and it leads Jack up to this point. It becomes who he is, and to start off the fight with Aku's daughters like this is breathtaking in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. And not to mention how that quote isn't just describing Jack, it's also like, it's him being compassionate to the daughters of Aku, because he gives them a chance. He's like, you don't have to take this step forward. I know with Jack, he's already crossed the threshold. He killed one of the daughters. Like, he's accepted that, and that's what that kind of quote taught himself. The quote from his dad taught himself. But he's using it as an offer of peace to them. He's like, we don't have to do this. I've already gone too far, but you don't have to take that step. But none of them are willing to listen. So then the fight starts and breaks out in this amazing stark white background. We see the daughters of Aku all standing in a circle. Jack basically uses the snow drift or whatever that fog is that rolls in that makes the screen totally white to the snow. It's pretty intense.
I would say it's a cloud of fog just rolling in. You know how you're walking through a forest, and sometimes in the wee hours of the morning, the fog will just be throughout the forest.
Yeah, and then
in most parts.
And what's really nice is that I like to compare it to some of the old fights from the older episodes. I mean, there's this fight that everybody kind of knows if you guys have seen the older seasons. Jack has to fight a ninja, and Jack is wearing all white, and the ninja is wearing all black. And then what happens is the fight takes an entire day almost. So as it goes from day to night, Jack's advantage slowly goes away because everything starts becoming dark and he becomes contrast. And now in this fight, instead of it being just a total black background, it's a total white background, and all the enemies are black. So we see Jack has kind of the advantage here, and he brutalizes the daughters of Aku. I thought that he was gonna have some kind of a second. He was like, "Oh man, I can't maybe one is too much, or maybe I should just kind of go easy on them." Fuck that. Jack just goes hard on all six of them. He spears them. he karates them. He punches one, and I think he breaks her neck in one punch. I don't know, but it's pretty intense. The fight drags on, and Jack just uses the terrain so incredibly well throughout the fight, and the artistry is amazing. Him spinning through the air, him using all the weapons, the daughters of Aku jumping through trying to catch him. The art was really incredible, and the fight was really strong, I like to believe.
Yeah, as I was watching this scene, Matt, one of our good friends, he said that he's going back to his roots in fighting, and I really like that, because he's actually portraying what Jack is actually using, what he has learned throughout the whole original series, where he's using all the training that he's learned, and you no longer see like a Jack relying on weapons. He's relying on the basics, what he has around him, to his advantage.
And not to mention it, what I really like is that whenever he picks up one of their weapons to fight, he always knows how to use it. And the thing is, I would complain about most characters being able to use any weapon, but that's what Jack's thing is. He went, like, as a child, and as he grew up, he went around the world training in almost every fighting style. Like, you know what I mean? He trained in almost all the weapons, all this stuff. So it would make sense for him to be able to use that, baseball bat, or that I'm sorry, I'm not really sure what kind of weapon it is, but it has it's like a bat texture, but it has nuptials on the end of it, so like metal balls on the end of it, so it hits a lot harder. Or like the weapon that Ashi uses, one of the daughters of Aku, the Kasarigama, which is like the chain with the hook on the end of it. Like of all people, I would like to believe that Jack has the most knowledge in most of these weapons.
Yeah, so when he uses the daughters, when he's fighting the daughters of the Ku with any type of weapon, I would say he takes a second to realize, okay, what weapon he is using, and then he just goes, he acts as if it's a natural with it. Chives, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole fight scene, that final scene of the episode was in all ways, epic, breathtaking, awesome. I think a point that needs to be hit is how the one daughter that we see, how during her training, she glimpses out the castle of Aku, and sees everything, and kind of thinks, why are we doing this? You kind of see her as Jack knocks off her mask and she's dangling off the chain. How she's giving a rant saying Jack is gonna die and that he's the menace of them all. And Jack pretty much just says, F it, I don't care. And just chucks her off the cliff.
What's really nice is how they get to that scene. The fight scene starts at the bottom of a forest, and they basically fight their way up trees and through the trees until they get to this big branch that's long and hangs over the edge of a cliff. And so it's literally 3v1 on the edge of this branch, and Jack just takes them one at a time. The first chick comes, easily knocks her off. The second chick comes, he literally senses her in the force and punches her so hard in the face that he cracks the mask. And then Ashi comes, the last daughter that seems to have the most attention at the moment. She tries to attack him, and he uses her weapon against her, just like Chive said. But basically, with the way the episode ending, Ashi falls into the mist below, and then the branch breaks beneath him, and so does Jack. And that's when we get the watcha. So I really wonder where it's going to go. I don't want to... we can add our surmisations and stuff, but I really want to believe that maybe Jack will have to help her, or she'll have to help Jack, because if they're both wounded, are we going to get the wounded wolf thing twice in a row? I don't know.
We'll see what happens in the next episode, which I'm really intrigued to watch. And going back to the spiked baseball bat, it's actually called a kanabo.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I went ahead and looked it up, and it's actually Japanese origin.
Okay, so it seems like a large majority of the weapons they were using seem to have kind of like a Japanese background. Like the weapon that Ashi was using, the chain sword, the chain hook is a Japanese weapon as well. And if that one's too, I don't know about much. I don't know about the ones that Raphael uses from TMNT.
The size?
Yeah, the size. I don't know what their origins are there, but it seems like a large majority seem to kind of pull from that. But
from the Japanese origin, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's about it, everyone. I think we've covered everything. Daughters of Aku basically hunting Jack, kind of dealing with the outside world, and Jack still dealing with himself while facing off the daughters. Actually, one last little thing I wanted to mention is that we don't see too much of the outside world, because a lot in the old episodes, none of the episodes are especially linked to one another, so we saw the world's kind of built itself. There was always a new city to go to, always new people to. But now we're just getting Jack solo, and the daughters solo, and Aku solo, so I'm really interested to see how those plots develop if we're going to stick with them through the entire season. So this has been The Cube.
This has been Chris.
And Chives.
And this is our review of Samurai Jack Season 5, Episode 3. We'll talk to you later, guys.
Alright, take it easy.
Thanks, guys.